Hey everyone, Token Dave over here, the dorky token black guy that's just trying to get by. And welcome to another edition of Helltober, my celebration of horror and Halloween in the month of October. Werewolves are my favorite movie monster of all time. Alright? They are intimidating, beastly, strong, brutal, yet sympathetic. Now, because basically a werewolf is not consciously responsible for their actions. Depending on the writer or the creators, those that are cursed to be a werewolf, they don't consciously, basically go out and fulfill their own desires. They are actually not in control physically of what they do. So basically, you can kind of empathize with anyone that is cursed to be a werewolf, and you can understand why anyone that says they're cursed to be werewolf wants to be either killed or at least does what they can to keep themselves locked up during the full moon, which also compared to the other movie monsters and everything, if you are cursed to be a werewolf, that your soul is not damned to hell, which is a godsend and everything. However, give or take the past 10 years, we are currently living in the zombie apocalypse and vampire craze, and werewolves themselves have not really been in the forefront of the mainstream. Twilight doesn't count. Ugh, fuck those movies. Anyway, the last time werewolves were predominantly in the forefront was in the 80s. And, this was a time where horror was actually at its peak, more so, and werewolves are not the exception. There were some groundbreaking werewolf movies that were made, but there were also some good werewolf movies made that, do not genre enough attention and respect that it deserves. And we are talking about one of those movies today with Stephen King's Silver Bullet. So, it is 1976 in Tarker's Mill, and a series of unexpected murders has occurred. The graphic nature of the killings has the townspeople believing that a serial killer is on the loose. However, an 11-year-old paraplegic boy believes something much more monstrous is responsible, and that belief is confirmed when he survives an attack from an assailant. However, with the exception of his older sister, no one else believes the story that a werewolf is loose in town. Now, if you guys actually watched my previous video of my top 5 child characters, top 5 child protagonists or survivors of horror movies, you will note that I mentioned a character named Marty Koslaw in my honorable mentions. And Marty is actually the protagonist of this movie, played by the late Corey Haim. Marty actually really drives this movie forward a lot and everything. Unlike some of the other kids or some other characters in movies nowadays, Marty is just one of those good-natured, sweet individuals. He likes to have fun, and he will be mischievous, but he doesn't want things to go far. And when he sees somebody that's in pain or somebody that's hurting, you could feel that he feels terrible. You can not only feel it, but you could also see it. And to top it off, he also always, when he's a part of something that goes too far, he takes the responsibility and tries to make up for it or atone for what he took a part in, which is something that you don't really see enough characters do in movies today and everything. On the other end, in addition, you have his older sister, whom basically feels that Marty is her cross to bear. All the time she's hearing her parents tell her, look after your brother, make sure your brother's okay and everything. Be nicer to your brother and all. And you know what? She gets so frustrated with having to be his freaking caretaker all the time, you can actually identify with her, And however, you can hear her say, "Oh, Why does Marty always have to get what he wants? Why does Marty always have to get what he wants? She says that, but she's not malicious about it. You actually see that, like, basically, she actually empathizes with her younger brother, but she just feels that he's always forced into her life directly, like, basically, like, forced to watch him, forced to push him up and down the ramp, forced to get him out of a chair all the time, so she feels that, like, she does way too much and everything. However, their relationship is actually a normal sibling relationship. There are times where they get frustrated with each other, but there is that love and affection that they both have for each other. Hence, where, like, Marty actually tells Jenny, her Marty's older sister, Jenny, actually, he confides into her that basically he actually saw a werewolf, and Jenny actually believes him. Basically, she looks at him, she hears him, and she just, like, is all on board with him. Which really displays the love that they have for each other. Something that most movies and TV shows still to this day can't really get right. But the show stealer of this whole movie is Uncle Red, played by Gary Busey. Wow. Now, I kind of have a soft spot, as you know, for the relationship of uncle and nephew, with my relationship with my uncles and everything. And Uncle Red exemplifies that. Uncle Red is the fun uncle who, like, comes around like once a month, visits Marty, and Marty has a blast. While Marty does have some friends and everything, he really has the most fun when he gets the attention from his uncle, whom is actually going through a bit of a life crisis right now with going through his third divorce and everything, and seemingly still, like, drinking heavily at the moment, which causes friction between his causes friction between his sister, Marty's mother. So I've been talking about the characters for a while. Let's talk about the thing that like, we all want to hear about, the werewolf. And this werewolf is amazing, but it's amazing in its simplicity. All it is just basically a humanoid looking wolf with black fur and everything, and the teeth are not over exaggerated, nor are the nails over exaggerated, or the paws and everything. This is actually like an intimidating and scary wolf, but it is not, like, over the top, and it is effective. And when you see the wolf actually perform the killings, these killings are actually pretty brutal and everything, but they are not over the top. And that's one great thing about this movie. The effects and the execution is done perfectly. While most horror movies or most slasher or splatter movies, they like to do things in the extreme, this movie knows how to actually balance it out. It knows how to be brutally effective, but not go over the top. In addition, you got the makeup effects, which are awesome. And, you have this one great scene where everybody's in the church turning into a werewolf, and you're like, whoa, that is one of the, like, kind of random, but, like, awesome to look at scenes and everything, with basically things going into insanity. Now, I will not reveal who the werewolf is, given I know that this is actually a 32-year-old movie and everything, but, like, I really feel that this is one of those movies that if you haven't watched, I can understand why, because it goes on the radar for a lot of people, but you should go pick this movie out, and then when you find out who the werewolf is, it's a huge shock, In addition to, like, big great makeup effects, some of the music of this movie, is actually pretty endearing. It's haunting, but it also has this optimism to it. And that's what this movie actually really tugs at and everything. I was always wondering why my mom allowed me to watch this movie as a kid and everything, but this is an effective, fun horror movie that is not too intense and everything. It can be, but it's still appropriate for, younger kids. And when I talk about younger kids, I'm not talking about my age, because, like, I saw this when I was, like, 8, 7 years old. I'm talking more about a 10-year-old could watch this or 11-year-old could watch this. Are there anything now? As much as I like this movie, there are some things that like don't make sense. Like for example, early in the movie, basically a group of people are frustrated and they go out to try to find who the killer is, and a slew of them get murdered by this wolf. But then later on in the movie, where Marty encounters the wolf and he tells everybody about it, they don't believe him. And it's like, wait a minute, you guys got killed off and everything, and you're not believing this kid? That don't make sense. Another complaint that I have is that basically, a lot of the victims are not there. When someone gets killed, you are not really like, grabbed by it. It doesn't really affect you as much. While you're invested in the lead characters, the disposable characters, really not so much. And there's one particular death that's supposed to be very climactic and very tragic and everything, which in real life it would be, but how it's pulled off, it's really not pulled off that effective and everything, and not as much of a blow. But those are nitpicks compared to excellent characters and awesome music, great effects, great harbor atmosphere, and decent suspense. Guys, Silver Bullet is amazeballs. Agree? Disagree? Drop me a comment below, give me a like, follow me on Facebook at Token Dave or on Twitter at TokenDave80. Subscribe and ring that bell so you know when a new video loads. But until then, this has been Token Dave, the dorky token black guy who's just trying to get by, and I'll catch you guys later.